Rob J gave me an incredibly generous 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon and brings you today's video. Light Paws versus Omnath, and we have only one aura, so I don't think that is much of a keeper. Okay, and then straight into our one lander. Griff's Boon we would be able to cast, we can get our commander down, but after that we're very much reliant on top decking into a couple of lands for the Mesa Enchantress. Yeah, I think we have to mulligan here as well. Okay, and that's looking better, so we get rid of the Sun Titan, and we'll risk getting rid of a land as well. And just going to start the game off with a Sigarda's Aid. Just a forest from our opponent, we draw into Armoured Sky Hunter. So obviously get down the commander here for 2 mana. Alright, and we draw into Umbra Mystic, so no point going for Ethereal Armour at instant speed, I don't think. We'll land some extra commander damage now. Triggers the Light Paws, and might as well get protection from... there's green and blue, or black and red. Maybe just go for a Totem Armour instead. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. Argument to be made for just going for pro-green or red, because we've got the Umbra Mystic, but don't actually have to cast the Umbra Mystic here. The Light Paws already a 6/6 with first strike, and that is a Hammer of Perforos from our opponent. So we're going to be able to make colourless golems with that, which would have been able to chump blockers against the protection from red anyway. Alright, a Pearl Medallion is the only thing we can do there, so might as well cast that, and it will open up both the Prison Term or the Umbra Mystic next turn. Maybe even the Armoured Sky Hunter if we finally manage to get into a land. So putting our opponent halfway to commander damage. Alright, well, so much for that, getting a land blown up with a Decimate. We lose our Pearl Medallion and the Hyena Umbra as well. So our commander's gone down to a 4/4. Draw straight into a Sol Ring though, so play that out, and hopefully, again, we're getting into a land next turn. A Prison Term might be useful to buff our commander back up again. So swing in for 4, and that will put our opponent on 16 points of commander. Unfortunately, only 20 points of commander next turn, unless we can buff it and still get through. Alright, our opponent could have gotten rid of the protection from red anyway, so Mizian Mortars dealing that 4 damage to our commander. Put it back in the command zone, and then seeing the first bit of ramp from our opponent, down to 4 cards in hand. Alright, so drew into a Core Spirit Dancer, that's all we can cast here anyway. Eager for another land for the Light Paws. The Mending of Dominaria now, so mill 2 and return a creature. So we just saw a Drownyard Temple and a Mana Geyser there. And finally getting into another land, so yeah, do we just go for the Light Paws and hope that our opponent doesn't have a means of wiping the board? With the Armoured Sky Hunter we put an aura into play, we don't cast it into the Core Spirit Dancer, so yeah, I think we just have to pray that we don't get wiped. Another 2 things being milled, so there's an Anger which will stay in the bin, and it was an Oracle of Muldiah that got put into the hand there, dropping another land. And now seeing the Green Warden of Marassa, we'll be able to fetch something back. So, going after the Decimate again. Alright, so drawn into Recruiter of the Guard. I suppose we could just go for the Armoured Sky Hunter while we've still got the chance, because that will be cheating auras into play for us. We have to assume that we're going to go back down to 1 mana again next turn, so yeah, it has to just be the Sky Hunter. So Mending of Dominaria, returning all the lands from graveyard to the battlefield, and everything else into the library. So I think they only got a Drownyard Temple there. But there's the Decimate again, so taking out our Enchantment, Sol Ring, Commander and a land. And then we see a Morph creature, which don't have to worry about reach or flying on just yet, because they can't afford to flip it at the moment. Alright, there's a Griff's Boon, so Griff's Boon onto the Armoured Sky Hunter. Do we just try and land as much as we can on that thing? I suppose we could pile onto the Core Spirit Dancer with this. It says you may put an aura or equipment from among them onto the battlefield, so we can put it wherever. Yeah, but I think buffing up the Sky Hunter is better to make it more of a threat and try and keep the Spirit Dancer in play. We can at least guarantee that we get in with the Sky Hunter. Spirit Dancer can be chumped, and we don't want them returning Decimate yet again with the Green Warden. And Angelic Destiny, don't know where the lands are. So our creature has flying twice, and it's a 4/3. We will swing in and hope that we can get something really good. Alright, that is a Timely Ward and a Benevolent Blessing. So I think the Timely Ward is best to cast there. Put that on the flyer. So I think we have to give up on commander damage, but if we can buff this thing up a decent amount, then hopefully we'll be able to get through. And hopefully any lightning bolts from the Omnath will be dealt with now, thanks to the timely ward as well. A dust ball for our opponent, destroy a non-basic land, don't have any of those. And then the morph creature being flipped up, that is a Den Protector, so again, we're going to see that Decimate. Now, I think they need legal targets for the Decimate. There's no artifact at the moment, unless they want to blow up their own hammer. They could make a creature with this and then target that way, but they'll be a mana shy at that point. Yeah, alright, just going after their own hammer, so blowing up our land, the timely ward, the indestructible dealt with, and then the core spirit dancer as well, of course. And there we finally see another land, likely to be decimated again. Swung in at us, knocked us down to 32, it's just a race against time now, hoping that our opponent can't deal with the quite fragile 3 toughness creature. Okay, there is Minimus Containment. A Flicker Form, we have nowhere near the mana for that. A Land Umbra. And a Battle Mastery. I should probably go for the Umbra, even though it doesn't buff our creature. Yeah, for all we know, they're going to get that Decimate back again, so we'll go for the Land Umbra. Although if they target this with the Decimate, does this get blown up and the creature gets blown up at the same time, so the totem armor doesn't count? Whatever, we'll just go for the Battle Mastery and really try and outrace them. The Umbra's probably the best thing to target there, but I think I can be forgiven for kind of giving up on this game. So knocking them down to 12, it's all in this next turn now really, and hoping that we can get a buff on this thing. We want to be able to buff it up to 6 really. So there is Multani, that has reach unfortunately, so yeah, might have to make it through another turn. Okay, there's Jeweled Lotus, doesn't particularly help us because our commander costs 6 now. Yeah, whatever, we have to keep swinging in, so we'll just try our luck. Might be able to get protection from green or something. No, it is protection from black and red instead, which doesn't help us, so we'll have to trade away the Multani instead. Yeah, not a lot of luck with the auras in the aura deck here, but yeah, that's going to be pretty much the game for us. Had to go for it because what else are we doing? The Armoured Sky Hunter was our last hurrah there. Oracle of Moldiah into play, showing game migration path on top, followed by Traverse the Uvenwald. And after the shuffle we see a Tireless Tracker on top. We get whacked for 5, 6, 7 and 8 damage again. So just 2 more combats and we'll be done for. Alright, Teferi's Protection, so with no auras and no lands really. I suppose getting into the more expensive auras wouldn't have been as bad if we actually could have stuck lands in this game, so yeah, we'll leave it another turn just for the fun of it, but I think we'll be scooping soon. Tireless Tracker being drawn into, revealing an Eternal Witness, and you'll never guess what that will aim for. Seeing Nissa Vastwood Seer actually going to shuffle the Witness away, and revealing an Aurum Reef the Vastwood, and then playing out the Tracker, followed by Landfall, and there is another land on top with the Forest, so Nissa going to be turned into a Planeswalker. The Tireless Tracker will make a Clue token, and then ticking up on the Nissa to draw into, or actually play the Forest straight from the top. And then there's an Animist's Awakening. So a bunch more landfall being made, which means more Clue tokens, and a Clue being cracked to draw into that. There's Mosswort Bridge. I imagine they've run out of land drops to make by now. So cracking the Clue token again. And there we see Kessig Wolfrun, so even if we did manage to get something going here, our opponent's probably going to just trample straight through. Swinging in at us for 10 this time. So I'm not sure what we could actually draw into here. I mean, it'd have to be more fast mana along with the Jeweled Lotus to actually get our commander into play, at which point we wouldn't be able to afford an aura to put onto it anyway. Plus it wouldn't have haste, so waiting for my opponent to pass it over. Alright, yeah, and very fittingly, just draw into a land at the end of the game, so we'll leave it there and see if we can get into a game where we can actually have some lands. Like Paws versus Atraxa this time, and thankfully we've got that Chrome Mox, but yeah, there's every chance that we don't do much of anything this game either. Let's keep. We are on the draw at least. Gives us a chance to get into a Plains, hopefully, just a command tower from our opponent. Alright, there's a Flicker Form, so that's useful just as an aura simply, so get down the Chrome Mox. We'll get rid of this Sun Titan, I think should be alright. And then our only land is the Ancient Tombs, so obviously tap the Chrome Mox for white mana. Get down our Light Paws and the Helm of the Gods, which won't give any buffs at the moment, but hopefully we'll get plenty of auras going soon. Seeing Lotus Petal from our opponent, so might be able to get the Atraxa down soon. And there is a Path to Exile, which better than Swords in this case, because it actually gets us into a Plains, which we are going to struggle to get into apparently. At least it didn't have any auras on it. And then it's a Plague Mere for our opponent, so getting flying with the Griff's Boon is going to be useful, as opposed to protection from colours. And then we draw into a Plains anyway, that's good, so Light Paws again. And then let's test our opponent on some removal. We'll go for that Griff's Boon. So our creature gains +1 and flying. And that's enough for our opponent to scoop it up. I was probably going to go for some kind of totem armor there. I think there's a single mana totem armor. Failing that, it would have been protection from white or black or something, I don't know. Grand Arbiter Augustin the 4th this time. And only one aura, but we actually have lands this time. I want to go faster if we can because we're up against a blue deck and it's probably going to be counter everything tribal. So we'll try that one instead. And we'll get rid of the Pearl Medallion. We're going to have to get rid of a white spell for the Chrome Mox. So yeah, I'm just trying to think what we get rid of here. Alright, so we'll go for the Marsh Flats into a land, a basic land, and then it can be the Chrome Mox again. And I think the Sigarda's Aid isn't necessarily going to be that useful. I mean, it could be against a blue player, making them counter stuff on their own turn. But we've only got one aura, so Sensei's Top from the Azorius player. And we draw into the Armoured Sky Hunter again, so let's go for the Spirit Mantle, protection from creatures, and +1/+1. Allows us to go in for an Aura Tutor again, of course. Yeah, so the Totem Armor doesn't help us against Exile, which is likely going to be what our opponent has. So maybe just buff him with a Daybreak Coronet so that we can keep swinging in quite consistently. Maybe should have gone for protection from white there, but I'll try and outrace my opponent. So Light Paws is now Lifelink, Vigilance, First Strike, protection from creatures, and it is a 6/6. Alright, our opponent just getting out of tap land, so maybe it's a more casual Azorius build. And we managed to get into another land by some miracle, so go into the red zone first. Managing to land, so putting them on 12 points of commander, drop down the Mesa Enchantress so that we can continue to try and draw into lands and auras. And now we see the Flooded Plain being tapped, and gets them out a Tundra. I think they must have spun the Sensei's Divining Top there as well. Alright, and another land, so it might be that we're going to get into nothing but lands now. But that allows down the Armoured Sky Hunter at least. Still no haste, so swing in again, and if our opponent takes another hit like this, then he's going down next turn, and we do have protection from creatures, don't forget. He won't be able to block. So has to remove our Light Paws really, and there is the argument for protection from white. Yeah, our opponent's doing pretty well on getting into all the interaction here. So let's go for the Light Paws instead of the Armoured Sky Hunter. Or, yeah, we'll go for the Sky Hunter actually. There's no guarantee we'll actually get into an aura next turn. They're holding up double blue now, as well as a tapped Rivendell, so might be that there's counter magic for our commander. There is an Arden, Intrepid Archaeologist. We'll just get down the Light Paws now and see if our opponent wants to counter it. Going to counter it regardless, so I don't suppose it matters when he does it. Okay, managing to land it by some miracle. Will we get to swing in is the question. Armoured Sky Hunter is going to hopefully see an aura. Alright, and we saw an All That Glitters. Let's just go ahead and put that on the Light Paws. Our opponent spun the Sensei's Divining Top before his turn there, and could be that we see Grand Abolisher. Oh, okay, or our opponent could just give up entirely. We were drawing into, alright, Ethereal Armour, so that would have been +1, 2, and then another 3 from the Ethereal Armour. And maybe would have seen, yeah, at least another aura. So yeah, not going to bother working it out, but it's All That Glitters along with the Ethereal Armour are pretty big buffs. And we would have had multiple auras in play on top of that, so it might have been that we got our opponent there anyway. Up against Urza this time, and you'll never guess how many lands we have in hand. Alright, that's looking better. We are on the draw as well, so we will keep, and strangely enough, get rid of a land in this one. Our opponent being on the play does mean that, well, I was going to say, it does mean that he'll be able to counter our Light Paws most likely, but now that we've got access to the Mana Crypt, perhaps not. So we'll go for Plains, and then the Mana Crypt can allow us into the Mind Stone, and that can hopefully allow us into the Light Paws. Alright, well, there's a Fading Hope, and they get to scry 1 off that, so Not going to be swinging in with the light paws, but us getting that in on turn 1 does make a difference. Kind of gains us a turn because they were always going to use that thing. Does open them up for bounce counter though. And now seeing a Malkator's Watcher, flying vigilance, when it dies draw. Alright, seeing an aura in face of divinity. Can have first strike, lifelink and +2/+2. So let's go for the light paws again. And then we get down a plains for another source of white mana, and why don't we try the Face of Divinity then? It's actually a pretty good draw because it can give us protection from blue. So we'll go for Shield of Duty and Reason. Yeah, that's the one, protection from blue. So now our commander is pro blue and green, has first strike, lifelink and is a 4/4. Now it's noteworthy that the Urza does come down with an artifact creature, so we won't have protection against that, but we will have flying with the Armoured Ascension, so yeah, there's every chance that they could bounce one of the auras instead. Then playing and sacrificing the Surgical Skull Bomb, so yeah, could have bounced a creature back to the hand with that. They would have had to do it next turn in all fairness. This thing gonna hit us, so yeah, that's fine. Not gonna block it because we don't want them to be drawing an additional card. That's obviously what they were fishing for there. No, actually we don't have flying yet, so couldn't block it anyway, but yeah, even when we do have flying, not going to be blocking that. Alright, there's a Griff's Boon, so drop the Ancient Tomb because it's the only land we can make here. And then it's the Armoured Ascension, going to give flying and +2/+2 as it stands now. The main thing being it's a 4 mana aura, so we can go grab the double strike aura, I think. So while we're in here, let's see if we've got a 1 mana aura that is an Umbra. Yeah, the Hyena Umbra. That's the one I was trying to think of, so we'll go for that with the Griff's Boon. But this one is going to be the Battle Mastery, giving double strike. So throw the Griff's Boon onto our commander as well. That will give +1 to power and flying. And then, like we said, it's the Umbra that we're after here. Just in case they can use a colourless spell of some kind to destroy our commander. They could bounce the Pro Blue and then use a Pongify or something as well. So our commander is now an 8/7. Swing in here. Protection from blue, double strike, first strike, flying and lifelink. And by the end of turn 3 got them at 16 points of commander damage, so yeah, they have to do something about our commander here. Otherwise we get them next turn. So there we see Urza Lord High Artificer, and no fast mana from our opponent, so that's where our fast mana came in handy, as it so often does in 1v1. Luckily we're flying straight over all our opponent's stuff here, so there's nothing they can do. And then seeing Kite Sail, yeah, if our opponent had a bit more extra mana, could have equipped that onto the construct, but unfortunately hasn't been quite fast enough. So let's just go straight through to combat. Our opponent's actually deciding to play it out, unlike so many other players on Magic Online. And that's good game to my opponent. I think that's the only decent game we've got so far, so I'll try and get another one. Throwing down against Kervek this time. And we have a bit of ramp and more auras than I think we've seen in any opening hand here, so we'll try this. We are on the draw again. A swamp from our opponent, and we draw into Winds of Wrath, and it's a Vamp Tutor for our opponent. And it might be that our opponent went for a Sol Ring there. We see a Charcoal Diamond as well, they're down to 3 cards in hand. And that is a Pariah. So can our opponent remove our commander is the question. We can always go for Benevolent Blessing. Get protection from both colours maybe. Yeah, let's just try and outrace with the Light Paw, seeing as how our opponent's off to such a fast start. Could have gone for the Arcane Signet there, and then hope for a land so that we can go Light Paws into the Benevolent Blessing, but if our opponent's got removal, it's probably instant speed anyway. They've got 6 mana now, 1 land away from the Kervek. And it turns out we were getting into a land, but maybe our opponent doesn't have removal anyway. So let's go for the Arcane Signet. And then we'll play that Benevolent Blessing. Giving protection from black should be okay. Yeah, and our opponent always could have done something about this, so likely that we just show an aura there. It's not likely that the Chaos Warp is ever going to do anything for us. Was the Timely Ward giving indestructible. So we can go for our commander again next turn at least. But our chances of actually keeping it in play aren't great. So our opponent managing to get down the commander by turn 4. And of course it is the Timely Ward that we draw into, because that was revealed with the Chaos Warp. So Kervek being in play pretty much switches off our deck now, because as soon as we try and enchant the Light Paws with anything other than a 1 mana spell, it'll just deal damage equal to the Light Paws and get rid of it. So yeah, I think that's pretty much us done. All we can really do is hope to draw into a card. Let's go for the Auramancer. Yeah, we can draw into a card next turn, hope it's a land, and then go for the Winds of Wrath to wipe out the commander and hope that they can't get it back down again. So our opponent going to Lightning Bolt us thanks to the Auramancer. Seeing Dark Suspicions now. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player loses X life, where X is the number of cards in their hand, minus the number of cards in your hand. Alright, so they've got no cards in hand now, obviously. We're hoping to wipe the board anyway, so might as well block here. So the Suspicions triggers at the beginning of the upkeep, and we will go down to 31, and then draw a card. Alright, that is a Pearl Medallion, might allow us to go for the Winds of Wrath, but they did make a land last turn, so that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9 with the Expedition map, so I mean we're going to need swords or something to get rid of it as well. Not likely to do anything this game, so we might as well try and save ourselves some life and go for the Prison Term. Take another Lightning Bolt to the Kervek, which doesn't count as commander damage. Commander damage has to be dealt during combat, for anyone who doesn't know. Expedition map getting cracked, and that is a Thawing Glaciers. So now they'll definitely be able to keep the commander in play. Benefit being, top decked into a Diabolic Tutor. I was going to say our opponent should find it difficult to get rid of enchantments in a Rakdos deck, but could have gone for Feed the Swarm there. Instead went for Basilisk Collar, so that will count towards the damage that he deals to us with this ability. Can't swing in, of course. Dark Suspicions is just going to get rid of us anyway. Alright, so drawing 2 Sage's Reverie. Obviously the Winds of Wrath is switched off now because the commander is enchanted. So just a case of seeing what our opponent can do here. Gets 2 tutors himself and then goes for a Stranglehold. Getting more damage to the Dark Suspicions. There is a Shield of Duty and Reason. So yeah, we can go for Light Paws. 2 damage to us. A Thawing Glacier is going to get another land into play. Yeah, our opponents had absolutely everything here. We didn't even get the right one. This is Pro Green and Blue, and we want the Rakdos one. What do we do here? Can we kill ourselves or not? Yeah, so we'll just cast the Shield of Duty here. Our opponent's commander has Death Touch, so the damage doesn't actually matter here. They can just get rid of our Light Paws no matter what. Like I said, our opponent has had everything here. And we've got 7 cards in hand, so all our opponent really has to do is pass the turn over. There is a Mayhem Devil. And then handing the turn over to us, we go down to a Dark Suspicions. So, yeah, that was a pretty fun one. Getting taken down by the fast Kervek. I think it was, what was it, turn 3 or 4 it came down, and yeah, very difficult for us to deal with it after that. If it wasn't for the Death Touch on the Basilisk Collar, then maybe we could have got something done with Light Paws and that 1 mana aura. But yeah, I think it was already too far gone by that point. Hopefully you all enjoyed this revisit to Light Paws, and I will see you all in the next one. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.